Namaskara. Namaskara to all of you. Welcome to our next session on the yogic life. Last class we talked about positivity, mental positivity. So we said that one of the fundamental characteristics of a yogi or a sadhaka is mental positivity. So life is full of ups and downs, difficulties, and nobody can escape from it. We all have to face various kinds of challenges, and we have two options. Either we can get depressed and live in fear, or we can adopt a positive mindset through yoga. So we have seen that in the world people resort to astrology and other numerology and whatnot to cope up with their fears about future, but this reliance on astrology or numerology only indicates lack of faith in Paramatma. So true faith is not dogmatic. It is very, very deep and an abiding trust, right? We also talked about the example of a 3-year-old child walking in the market, holding, his parents' hands. So despite being very small, he walks in the market, which is full of people. He walks fearless because he completely trusts his parents. He completely trusts his parents' strength and protection. So similarly, a yogi or a sadhaka, he trusts in Paramatma's presence, Paramapurusha's presence and power, knowing that no problem is too great to overcome, right? Because you are in your mind, you always know that Paramatma is holding your hands. So there is no fear whatsoever, right? So when something unfortunate happens, it is crucial not to lose composure. So if the mind freaks out and it gets distorted, then not only the unfortunate event has occurred, but also the mind loses its composure, its capacity to respond effectively. Right? A yogi's mind always remains calm. It remains very positive, understanding that Paramapurusha is always with us, understanding that difficulties are inevitable, but knowing that Paramapurusha is always with us, and this kind of mindset eliminates anxiety and also fear. Right? What is positivity? Positivity means standing up and moving forward, believing in oneself and knowing that one is never alone. This positive mindset is essential for spiritualists, for sadhakas, for yogis. It is grounded in the truth that Paramapurusha, who created this universe, who guides this universe, is also guiding and supporting all of us. So that kind of a strong, firm faith you have that Paramapurusha is holding my hands, right? There's no need to worry. This characteristics of maintaining a positive mind is very, very practical and is fundamental to a sadhaka. It is supported, this is supported by all the practices that we talked about so far, such as the sattvic ahar, food discipline, fasting, upavasa, meditation, sadhana, asanas, all of the aspects that we talked for a yoganishta jivanam, they all contribute to this positive mindset. A positive mind is one of the greatest assets. You just can't place enough emphasis on this aspect, positive mind. When you have the positive mind, you're always moving forward in the right direction. Only when somehow you get influenced by something and your mind is impacted negatively, then that is when you start falling down from your path. You start wavering, you start wandering, right? So a positive mind is every human being's greatest asset, and all the more for a sadhaka. So for instance, if you drop your cell phone and it broke, that is a very unfortunate incident, right? But if your mind also becomes negative, then the loss is doubled, right? Always we have to strive to maintain a positive mindset, knowing that Paramapurusha is with us, and then you'll have the strength to overcome any challenge, right? If your mobile falls and breaks, it's fine. The important thing is that your mind should also not become negative, because the falling of the mobile and breaking is not in your control, right? Sometimes some things happen which is beyond your control for whatever reason. So then if your mind also becomes negative, then you have a double loss. What happened has happened, right? What happened has happened. but our job is to manage the situation and move on further, right? The mind should always remain positive. So that is a very, very important thing, and that is in our control. That is in our control. How do I keep my mind positive all the time? That is in your control, and the Yoganishta Jivanam actually helps to move in that direction. So whatever happens in life may not be under your control, but whether your mind remains positive or not is in your control. If your mind stays positive, you will be able to handle any situation in life. So that is why this Yoganishta Jivanam, one who sincerely engages in this Yoganishta Jivanam, he will realize that how his mind is becoming more and more calm and positive, and it just shant. No matter what the situation is, you know you will be able to handle it, because you know that you're not alone. You know that Paramatma, Paramapurusha is always there with you, right? With kind of such firm conviction in your mind, there is nothing in this world that you cannot achieve, or there is nothing in this world you cannot, move ahead and find a solution, right? So that is one of the very key aspects for a sadhaka, for a yogi. So far we've been talking about all the aspects at the individual level, right? We talked about various sadhana angas, we talked about asanas, we talked about food, we talked about sadhana. These are all the things that we do at the individual level, so that a yogi is able to move forward in the right direction, right? But a yogi does not live alone in the society, right? He is not living alone, right? He is living in the society. So when you are living in the society, a yogi has responsibilities towards the society. For a yogi, the world does exist, right? So we don't say that the world is mithya. We don't say Jagan mithya. We do acknowledge that the world has a relative reality, right? So human beings have different natures by design, very much like animals, right? Some animals are designed to live collectively, while others live alone, right? For example, lions and goats, they live in packs or herds, while leopards are solitary. Animals that live alone are not lonely, because that is their design, and those that live together have their well-being closely tied to their collective life, right? For instance, if you think about a spider, consider a spider which lives alone, weaving its web and being content in its solitude. In contrast, ants live in a very in a tightly organized society, always helping each other and working collectively. So are human beings like ants or like spiders? So human beings are more like ants, not like spiders. We thrive in a social context, not in isolation. So far we've been discussing about how yoga applies to individual life, including practices like sadhana, asanas, vyapakshots, food, ahara niyama, the food discipline, upavasa. These are all individual practices. However, since humans are social beings like ants, yogic philosophy also integrates the social aspect very deeply, right? If an ant is separated from its society, it cannot fulfill its life properly, because it is designed to live with the rest of its colony. Similarly, for human life to reach its proper fruition, we need the greater human family, right? We need the society. Our success as human beings is integral to our social nature. So, like for instance, if consider somebody needs water, somebody who wants water, he wants to drink a glass of water. So if they were to dig their own well and to get the water, then imagine how much of difficulty a person has to go. Like if each individual is living in isolation, and if they want to do everything on their own, they have to dig their own well, they have to grow their own crops, they have to build their own generator for like electricity, they had to, including mining for iron ore. All this is impossible, right? We cannot do all of these things. Like imagine in every person's life, we have so many things that we get from outside, we purchase it from outside. Some group of people have developed something and we utilize that, right? So we use the effort, the labor of other people right? We use the services of other people for our day-to-day functioning. So our society, our complex society, requires us to work together and help each other, right? Otherwise we cannot survive. Even a single day we cannot survive without the society, because we cannot grow, we do not grow our own crops, we do not dig our own wells, right? So we live in a society, and this has been true not only in the modern times but also in the since ancient times. We always lived in the society. People have always lived together and supported one another, helped one another, right? Yogi understands this, and the yogic philosophy incorporates this, the social aspect completely. The key phrase is Atmamoksha and Jagat Hit. Atmamoksha, Mokshartam Jagat Hitaya cha. Meaning, what does it mean? It means Atma Moksha means it is individual liberation, Atma Moksha, and Jagat Hit means collective welfare. Right? Collective welfare. Jagat Hit is collective welfare. Collective welfare is crucial, because without which we cannot, without the collective welfare, we cannot meet our basic needs. Right? So, for example, if someone is starving, if you're starving, how can you focus on your meditation? How can you focus on your spiritual practices? Right? So we need food, we need clothing, we need shelter, we need water, we need all those basic things, and not all of it we can do on our own. We need the help of the society. So we must move forward collectively. So we must have this, the bhava that you need to have is a seva bhava. Being able to contribute to the society, being able to help somebody, right? This is a necessity. The world's current state of disorder is due to the absence of yogic philosophy. To succeed in our spiritual lives, our social connectivity, collective life, okay, all of that are very, very important. So this is a new thing that we have not talked about before, the collective aspect, right? We live in a materialistic world dominated by capitalism, right? Materialism falsely teaches us that happiness can be achieved through material acquisition. This fundamental mistake leads to global warming, to war, and all kinds of problems. Materialism causes people to live a pashu jivanam, causes people to be attracted by the objects of the world, lead an animalistic life rather than a manav jivan, a human life, right? We've been talking from the beginning, from the first class, that humans have an infinite desire, and we have the option to follow it or not, right? The world can be seen as a university with capitalists who are funding advertisements that mislead us into believing that material possessions bring us happiness, right? This is not real happiness. This is fake happiness based on having a perfect house or other material things. This kind of a false thing, is false prachar is being perpetuated by the capitalists, by the materialists, and prevents us from creating a true human society. This kind of false prachar divides the society, right? So the advertisements show us that you need to have a perfect house, you need to have a perfect car, you need to have everything perfect, you need to have multiple houses, you need to have multiple cars, you need to have this, right? Then only you have a prestige in the society. These are all false education, right? Political power, financial power, money, land, all of these things are all limited, right? If you accumulate these, you deprive others from getting the benefit from that, right? So this misconception that material accumulation creates happiness leads to darkness. True human happiness isn't defined by material wealth, right? Everyone needs a certain amount of money. Everybody needs. In order to survive in the society, we need little bit of money. We're not denying that. A yogi understands that, but that does not mean that we will be engaging in accumulating more and more wealth, right? We need a certain amount, but there is enough for everybody, right? If we let go of the idea that more is always better, because of the advertisements from the capitalists, we always get to believe that having more of the material things is happiness, right? Having more is always better, and that is the reason we always go about accumulating everything, whether it is books or shoes or clothes or jewelry or cars, everything. We want more and more money. We want more money. We want more power. Everything we want more, right? That kind of idea we are completely sold out to that idea because of the way the society, the advertisements, and the way the materialists have, uh, made us, misled us into believing that these possessions, these material possessions, will give us true happiness, right? So a critical shift is needed. A yogi understands this. A critical shift in understanding is needed, right? A yogi understands that human beings desire the infinite, right? We desire Parama Purusha, we desire Paramatma. Our goal in life is not to accumulate physical things, but to realize the infinite within us. Our goal is to have a life very, very simple, right? Our life should be very simple. There should be no adambara, right? It should be very simple, and a goal of life is not to accumulate physical things. So once we understand this truth, that this as a society, when we understand this, we will see that we are all on the same team, right? It's not like you're in a different team and I'm in a different team. When you realize that the goal of life is the infinite and not accumulating material things, we will start to see all the people, we are all on the same team. Realizing the infinite does not deprive anyone else, right? In fact, our pursuit of the infinite can inspire and help others, right? So if we are all on a spiritual journey together, right, we will support each other. The spirit of togetherness is the fundamental to true human society and to the yogic life, right? Without this, we will always struggle. The principle of Atmamoksha and Atmamokshartham Jagat is very, very important. It's critically important to the yogic life. We must realize that we are like ants and not like spiders. As yogi, we envision creating a unified human society, a beautiful bouquet where no one is left behind. Everyone moves forward together, ensuring that everyone has enough food to eat and a place to live. So what is this new reality going to be? So it is, instead of materialism and capitalism, how will it be organized? So we'll go into all of that later on when we read the Karapatras. But currently, like many people in India and in Africa and many other countries face extreme poverty. They lack the basic necessities like food, water, electricity. Right? This is unacceptable. So if you are living in abundance, then you must always come out and see how we can help the society, right? So it is like your brother and sister, somebody in some other place is suffering, right? And you must be able to help them to the extent possible, right? Imagining the hardships faced by those living outside major cities like Mumbai or Delhi or Bangalore. So people live in huts. They live in makeshift shelters without electricity and all that, right? Because they are also the children of Paramapurusha. They are also the progeny of Paramapurusha. So we are one society, one family. We are all we are coming from the same source, right? From the same supreme consciousness. So this kind of feeling is integral to yogic life. So we cannot create a true human society without recognizing this connection. We have all been tied together by the thread, and that thread is Paramapurusha, right? We are all brothers and sisters because we emanate from the same Paramatma. When we say Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world is one family, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, it must be more than words. It must not just be saying, right? It must be from the deep, from your heart, that Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. I feel everybody in the society as my family, right? That must be the reality. So we cannot support any kind of distinctions in the society and then still claim Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. There is only only that feeling of all of them. We are all the children of the same Paramatma. We are all brothers and sisters. We are all children of the same Paramapurusha is the core tenet of yogic philosophy. So unity cannot be achieved without this realization. The aikyam with Paramatma, the union with Paramatma cannot be achieved without this realization that we are all one. We are essentially one. There is no distinction, there is no division, there is no differences in the skin color, eye shape, or other superficial traits. They're all irrelevant. So irrespective of our race, irrespective of our color, irrespective of the language we speak, irrespective of the place where we live, irrespective of all that, we are essentially one. We are all the brothers and sisters. We are from the same source, right? The only way to internalize this is to realize our common origin from Paramapurusha, right? This adds a dimension to our yogic endeavor. We are all collective beings moving towards the same goal, right? Self-realization, Atma Moksha, is an individual achievement, but we support each other in this journey. Everybody should have access to food, shelter, clothing, education, medical care, right? But when Paramapurusha created this universe, he has given everything in abundance, and this abundance is that he's given it for everybody, right? So everybody has a right to use these resources that is given by Paramapurusha, and nobody has a right to accumulate more than what is required, right? Because we need to make sure that it is available for other people as well. So if one person accumulates more than what is required, then you're depriving other people who are also the children of Paramapurusha. So that is a very key concept in yoga. By working together, we maximize the opportunity for every member of our universal family to strive for Atma Moksha. This is the true vision of yogic life. Together, there is no problem that we cannot overcome, whether it is global warming or any other challenge. We can solve anything if we work collectively and understand we are on the same team, right? Yoga offers much to the world, both individually and collectively. So we have seen a lot at the individual level and also at the collective level. So we have to strive to make some efforts to contribute to the society in terms of seva, right? Like when you do seva, you're not expecting anything in return. You're just doing, it's a one-sided thing. You're just doing selflessly. You're contributing something to society without expecting anything in return, right? So when you do this, what happens is that your small I, right, that ego slowly vanishes when you're helping your brothers and sisters in the society. So life is very, very short, and we have a lot of work to do. Our primary tasks are Atma Moksha and Jagat Hit, collective welfare, right? Jagat Hitam, Jagatah Hitam. Each supports and fulfills the other. One, if you just engage in Atma Moksha without doing seva, then it becomes a very selfish endeavor, right? So you need seva as well. And when you only do seva and you're not doing anything in regard to the Atma Moksha, that is also not correct. So both of them go hand in hand. So Atma Moksha and Jagat Hit go hand in hand. One fulfills and supports the other. Without Atma Moksha, we cannot understand the unified human society, and without unified human society, those in poverty cannot progress. So this is the true picture of yogic life. And for those of you practicing or planning to practice, planning to practice the yogic life, so these are some of the key concepts that wanted to highlight. Okay. So moving on. So we can actually move on. So we actually talked about the sadhana angas that we talked about, all the practices that we talked about at the individual level, right? The asanas, satvik ahara, upavasa, vyapak soch, etc. All of these are to support one in sadhana. Why are we doing all this, right? Why are we taking satvik ahara? Why are we doing upavasa? Why are we doing all of that? Why are we doing asanas twice a day? Why are we doing all that? Those are all to help us in our meditation, because meditation is not an easy thing, right? Meditation is very difficult to focus the mind on a particular thing at a particular time. The mind is like a monkey, constantly jumping from one topic to another. So in order for us to get this focus, this concentration, ekagrata, we need all of these sadhana angas, right? So we've been talking about all these essential practices for the individual and also the collective aspects, especially related to the jagat hit that I just talked about. So we also talked about atma moksha and jagat hit, how they complement each other. So now I want to dwell a little bit deeper into the role of individual practices and their benefits. So everything we are learning in the practical field, like ahara, upavasa, asanas, is aimed at the greater goal, that is the manushya dharma. The greater goal is the realization of infinite. Everything that we are doing at the individual level, all these practices, why are we doing? So that ultimate, what is our ultimate manushya dharma, is the realization of the infinite, becoming one with the supreme entity. And this includes sadhana, that is the most essential, which means focusing one's mind on the infinite, on the supreme consciousness, right, parabrahma, becoming singularly focused on that entity, withdrawing the mind from all the other thoughts and concentrating that mind solely on supreme parama purusha. So all these sadhana angas, these practices, the food, upavasa, asana, everything support one's meditation, right? They bring fulfillment to the supremacy of the mind by directing it towards the ultimate goal. The human mind, with its inherent desire to know the infinite, achieves this through meditation or yoga sadhana, right? Yoga sadhana. So uh, so uh, the above practices, all these practices, that the yogi does, brings fulfillment to the mind by directing it towards the supreme, towards the ultimate goal, right? So these practices that we talked about elevates the mind, and when the mind gets elevated, then the mind automatically gets attracted towards paramapurusha. So these practices aids us in doing sadhana, aids us in doing meditation. So so the meditation or sadhana is commonly misunderstood in the society, right? So people often use the term meditation very, very loosely, right? So some people say that, running is a meditative process for me, or they say that this discussion was highly meditative, or somebody might say that, oh, his book is a meditation on the wonders of the forest. So however, in yoga, meditation is a very, very specific activity, right? It refers to focusing the mind on the infinite entity. As one thinks, so one becomes, right? If one can focus the mind on the infinite param brahma, that intelligence guiding all the stars in the universe, one's mind will also expand. One's mind will expand and become one with that parama purusha. So what is meditation? Meditation is not how it is loosely interpreted in the society. Meditation is very, very a specific activity. It is you sit down in a particular place in padmasana, close your eyes, and you focus on that supreme entity. So we've been talking about how the mind, as the mind thinks, so it becomes, right? So thinking about the stock market, then the mind becomes crude, like this, like the rupee, like the rupee or the dollar, right? If you, whatever you're thinking, the mind becomes like that. If you thinking on something very subtle, the mind also gets elevated. So when you're thinking about parama purusha, the mind also gets elevated. So meditation, what we're talking about meditation over here, it is focusing the mind on that infinite param brahma, that intelligence which is guiding everything in this universe, right? It is also guiding you. You're also part of this universe, as that parabrahma is guiding guiding the stars, the sun, the planets. The same way the parabrahma is also guiding you, and the parabrahma is a sakshi satta, which is constantly watching everything that you do, right? So that is what, that the concentrated thinking, focusing the mind on that infinite entity, is what is called as meditation, right? So one's mind will expand. As we do meditation, one's mind will expand and become one with that supreme entity, right? So going forward, so So the difficulty in doing sadhana, right? We've been talking about it. We've been saying that sitting down and doing sadhana, right, is not easy. It is rather a difficult process. First of all, people will be first of all disinterested even sitting down and thinking about meditation, right? The people have fear of even sitting down and doing meditation. So that is the first fear. And the second fear is, even if they sit down in meditation, they're not able to focus because the mind wanders. It is a natural thing for every breather. The mind wanders from one topic to another. So there is a difficulty in doing sadhana, right? The mind which is meant to do sadhana is very, very easily distracted, right? It is easier for the mind to degenerate than to elevate, right? Throughout our existence, we've been conditioned to think about worldly desires, right? Because everything around us is very materialistic. So you step out of the house, or even within the house, everything that you deal with is material things. So the mind can easily degenerate. Throughout our existence, we've been conditioned to think about worldly desires. This is the path the mind has followed since our existence as insects, fish, deer, monkeys, because we've gone through Pashu Jivanam all through ages, right? And we are always attracted towards the material things, right? So because of the Pashu vrittis that we have, right, we try to apply that Pashu vritti even to these all the material things of the world, and we always focus on acquiring material things. That is how the mind has been trained, right? So that is why we find it very, very difficult, right, to do sadhana. Now that we have taken the human birth in this body, right, the mind's nature is critically different. Its desires are no longer finite, right? So far, when we were in the Pashu Jivanam for ages, right, taking different births from plants to animals, at that point in time, our desires were finite, right? We had limited things that we wanted: ahara, nidra, bhaya, maitanam. That's all we wanted, right? But then when we took the human birth, there is a critical shift, right? The critical shift is that no longer our desires are finite, right? And our desires cannot be satisfied by these by the material pursuits. So to focus the mind on Parama Purusha, it must be elevated. That it must have this feeling of attraction to the higher thoughts, right? Unless the mind feels this attraction, it will continue to wander towards the crude attractions, right? So that is why it is rather difficult to do sadhana. So when the eyes are open, right, so we are saying that the mind has this desire to know the infinite, but at the same time it is easily distracted by the things it knows so well, right? The things it has been pursuing for ages, the worldly and finite things. So now those finite things don't satisfy the mind, which has the desire for the infinite. So most people do not understand this. So they go on trying to satisfy it with what we have discussed in depth in all the previous session, that we go on accumulating more and more of a particular material thing, whether it is position, power, or any material things, right? Whatever it is, we just go on and on about it, right? The more we get, the more we want, right? But now we are talking about the person whose eyes have opened, not the person who's still in darkness, trying to satisfy themselves by accumulating infinite amounts of finite things, which can never be done and can never satisfy the infinite desire. This person is different from the majority who are living in ignorance. So for a yogi whose eyes are open, for a person who sincerely engages in this yoganishta jivanam, realizing that his goal of life is Parama Purusha, Paramatma, then for such a person, no longer the objects of the world no longer attract that person, because his eyes have been opened. He has realized what his goal of life is, right? So the person whose eyes have awakened wants to live a true human life, right? Wants to engage in this spiritual practice. This person also has both the Pashu Vritti, Pashu Dharma, and the Manav Dharma within them, and we've talked about the struggle between the two, right? For the mind to move towards the Manav Dharma, it needs to cultivate an attraction for the infinite, right? By definition, every human being has this desire, right? But they must be able to guide their life in that direction. We all have an infinite desire, but we must engage in this yogic life and guide the mind in that direction. This guidance actually depends most critically on one thing: cultivating an attraction for the infinite Parabrahma, right? Cultivating an attraction. And you cultivate that attraction by engaging in this yogic life, by doing sadhana. We previously mentioned that the infinite entity is like a great magnet, right? And the human being is like a piece of iron. So the purity of the iron determines how much it is attracted by that supreme magnet, right? That attraction is key. Someone may start the path of sadhana, but until they cultivate this attraction, their progress will primarily depend on discipline, right? Discipline can take one only so far, right? Even if you're leading a very disciplined life, it will take you only so far, right? Unless you develop this attraction for this parama purusha, for this paramatma, the progress will not be much, right? In the beginning, no doubt discipline is necessary, but it transitions from discipline to habit and then ultimately to nature. So all that is required, but in addition to that, we need to cultivate this attraction, this bhakti for that parama purusha. This bhakti is very, very important, right? So when you have this bhakti, then as you become more and more steadfast in your bhakti, then your mind gets purified. When your mind gets purified by engaging in this yoganishta jivanam, your mind slowly gets purified. When it gets purified, then it gets attracted by that parama purusha. That attraction to the parama purusha also increases slowly, right? So all that is possible when you engage sincerely in this yogic life. It becomes a habit becomes into nature only when one truly becomes attracted to parama purusha, right? So we said that we need discipline, and then it transitions from discipline to a habit, and then ultimately to nature. It becomes nature only when you are truly attracted to parama purusha. For example, someone might be talking to their friend on the phone, enjoying the conversation, but then he realizes that it is time for sadhana. They think that, no, I should go do my meditation, I should go do my practice. Then but they are enjoying the conversation. Then they try to exert the discipline to go and do sadhana, but as long as it's a struggle, they often lose, because of the immediate gratification of talking to a friend is stronger, right? So in this way, in life, at any point in time, we'll have two situations where the attraction towards the mundane things of the world will be pulling you in that direction, and also there's attraction towards parama purusha. So by developing this discipline and by converting that discipline into habit and making into your nature, you will be able to make the right decision of what you want at a particular point in time. Just like the example of having a conversation with a friend. This conversation with a friend is so nice that you're just continuing having this conversation for 1 hour long, and then at that point in time you suddenly realize that, no, now it is time for my asanas, now it is time for my meditation, and then you know how to get out of that conversation and go and do what you're supposed to do, because you're leading a disciplined life, right? So that thought automatically comes to your mind that, no, now it is time for my sadhana. I cannot engage in whatever I'm doing there. So you'll cut that conversation and go and do what you have to do. So that kind of discipline comes into your life when you engage in this yogic life sincerely, right? So and also when you engage in this yogic life, you start getting this ananda, you start getting this bliss, right? It is very, very natural. Initially you might feel it is like, it's just a process that you're engaging every day, morning and night, but then slowly you will realize that you actually enjoying it, you're liking it. It's just giving you a lot of peace of mind, it's giving you a lot of happiness. So that is why we say that you're not going to get ananda only when you ultimately realize paramatma, but you're going to get ananda when you just engage in this process. By engaging in this process, when you do when your efforts are in the atma moksha and jagat hit, right, automatically this whole path is becoming very, very joyful, and it is a matter of happiness. So that is what I wanted to talk on this. Okay.
Um,
Does
I have to leave at this.
Okay, Bhagini. Yeah, dhanyavadah. Thank you.
धन्यवादः।
Okay. So moving on from there, so we've been talking about the sadhana. So sadhana, what is sadhana? Sadhana means chesta. Sadhana requires effort, and right. So we're talking about, when we talked about how it is difficult to concentrate the mind, right? The mind is like a monkey constantly jumping from one topic to another, right? So no doubt initially when you're engaged in the sadhana, uh, you will have a lot of obstacles. It is very difficult to make the mind sit on a particular topic, right? So it requires a lot of effort, right? It requires a lot of effort, right? Krishna says in Gita that, abhyasena kaunteya, right? Like that, you have to do a lot of practice, right? You have to keep doing practice. You cannot give up, right? So you do sadhana for 1 day, 2 days, for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and it's difficult. It's not like your mind is going to concentrate on Parabrahma immediately, right? So you just need continuous practice, right? Years after years, when you keep doing it regularly, then the mind slowly starts realizing what is the goal of life. It is very slow process, because we've gone through an animal life for ages, right? So to come out of it, it takes a long time. So it requires a lot of effort, and initially and overcoming all the initial obstacles, such as, you might have physical discomfort, right? Physical discomfort, not able to sit in that padmasana for how many hour minutes that you're doing sadhana. That itself is a big difficulty initially, right? You will have pain in your knees, right? So you have to overcome that, and you cannot give up just saying that, oh, I have pain in my knees, I cannot sit in padmasana, so I'm going to give it up. No. So you're going to have initial obstacles. It can be physical discomfort, or it can also be obviously mental distractions as well, right? But however, as one becomes more deeply attracted to that supreme entity, when the bhakti bhava increases, then it becomes a matter of ananda. Then slowly the physical discomfort also vanishes. The mind also starts becoming more and more attracted towards Paramapurusha, and it becomes a matter of ananda or bliss. And slowly one loses all attraction towards the finite things of the world. It is a very, very natural process. It's not like you have to exert force or anything like that. It just happens very, very naturally. Slowly, when you engage in this yogic life, slowly your mind will get disinterested from all the material things of the world. You're no longer attracted. Even if you are in the midst of it, your mind is not attracted towards it. It's not running towards those material things, right? You might be looking at it, but then even then your mind is like, it's okay, so what? Like that kind of a feeling you slowly start getting. So this is very, very critical. So we talked about the example of a baby playing with the car keys, right? So the mother needs to go out, and mother needs the car keys. So the mother cannot just pull the car keys away from the child. The child will start crying. So then what the mother has to do is that mother has to give a better toy to the child. And when the baby gets a better toy, then what will happen? It will lose its interest in the car keys, right? So, and then the child will just throw away the car keys, and it will take the better toy. So similarly, Paramapurusha is the most attractive entity in this universe, right? Our job as sadhakas is to generate that attraction for that entity, and that attraction or love is called as bhakti, right? That attraction is called as bhakti. Bhakti is very, very important for a sadhaka. Bhakti is very important for the sadhaka. The attraction towards Paramapurusha, that bhakti bhava, is very, very important, and that is what takes one person forward in the spiritual journey. That attraction towards that supreme magnet is what will help us, which is what will help us to give up the mundane things of the world, right? Just like the child, the baby, throwing the car keys and taking that better toy. That better toy is Paramapurusha. So when you get that attraction for that Paramapurusha, then automatically, just like the baby is throwing the car keys, we'll throw away all the mundane things of the life. And how do we develop that bhakti bhava, right? That bhakti bhava. So the bhakti bhava has nothing to do with any ritual, right? It is the love, the deep love one feels from the bottom of their heart for that supreme entity. People develop attractions according to the level of elevation of their mind, right? A crude mind is attracted to crude things, right? While a mind which is more elevated is attracted towards higher things, right? One can gauge the elevation of one's mind by observing one's likes and dislikes, right? At any point in time, you can just observe yourself and say, what are you attracted towards? If you're attracted towards crude things, material things, then we can realize that we have to do a lot more work to elevate the mind, right? So a crude mind is what is attracted to crude things, while a more elevated mind is attracted to higher things. So one can gauge the elevation of one's mind by observing one's likes and dislikes. For instance, someone might be a vegetarian but still may crave for eating meat, right? Indicating their mind is still attracted to crude things. Similarly, someone might practice sadhana but may still enjoy listening to rock and roll or indulging in other mundane pleasures. So we can gauge where our mind is at any point in time. So to overcome all these lower attractions, one must become attracted to that supreme entity. That is the key thing. Just like the baby losing interest in car keys, when it's given a better toy, the mind will lose interest in crude things when it becomes attracted towards Paramapurusha, when it has that bhakti bhava. The extent to which the mind gets elevated and attracted to Paramapurusha determines how much it will lose attraction to crude things, right? As you engage in this yogic life and you slowly, when you realize that you're not having interest in the mundane things anymore, then you can realize that your attraction towards the supreme entity has increased, has started. You can realize that, right? So to summarize, mind has a desire to know the infinite, but it easily gets distracted by the worldly things. So however, once a person realizes their ultimate goal, they need to cultivate an attraction to Paramapurusha. This starts with discipline, but ultimately requires genuine attraction, which is achieved through bhakti bhava. As the mind becomes more elevated and attracted to the supreme entity, it will naturally lose interest in crude and mundane things of the world. Okay. Okay. So, Chandrasekhar Mahodaya.
Yes, Bahini.
Namaskar. So, yeah, I don't know at what point in time you joined, but do you have any questions at this point?
No, it's pretty clear. You've made it pretty clear.
Okay.
Essentially, we're focusing in on elevating the mind uh, to develop an attraction uh, towards Paramapurusha. That elevated mind uh, is going to be the one that takes us to that ananda or bliss of meditating on Paramapurusha, thinking about Paramapurusha, and being one with the Paramapurusha. This Bhakti Bhava is what we need to develop, and that's the whole essence of human life, and not be attracted to mundane things.
Okay, Madam, nicely said. Yeah. So we will actually stop the class over here. Okay.
Sorry, I was late. I was held up.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you so much for joining. Yeah. Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Dhanyawad.
Dhanyawad. Namaskar.
Dhanyawad.